John's Public School, and today we're going to discuss symbolism in poetry with specific reference to the poem Aunt Jenifer's Tigers by Adrian Rich. Well, before we get into the poem and the poet, I would like to flash 3 pictures for you, and I would like you to remember these pictures in that order. Picture 1, Picture 2, Picture 3. Well, before we go into the poem itself, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Adrian Rich, the poet. She was an American feminist writer, a political writer rather, who wrote in the 1950s. Now, why I would like to fix this poem in context is because we know that feminism has grown, it has moved a long way from just talking about women's rights to a lot more that we talk about today. We talk about equality today. Well, at the time when Adrian Rich wrote poetry, women were not allowed to express themselves creatively. Well, everything for women was restricted, they were oppressed in the true sense of the term, and Adrian Rich was one of the pioneers of women's writing in English. In fact, she was one of the pioneers of feminist writing in English. And her poetry, although carried very, very profound themes, she did it without being explicit or without being too complex. So that is why she became one of the favorite feminist writers of all time, and she is my favorite as well. Well, in this particular poem that we're going to consider today on Jenifer's Tigers, she uses the rhyming couplet along with the heroic couplet. Why is that great? Well, the rhyming couplet is used in a simple nursery rhyme like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, How I Wonder What You Are. But a heroic couplet is used in epics. It was used to sing praise of great warriors. Well, that is Adrian Rich for you. Now for the reading of the poem. Aunt Jenifer's tigers prance across the screen, bright topaz denizens of a world of green. They do not fear the men beneath the tree. They pace in sleek, chivalric certainty. Aunt Jenifer's fingers, fluttering through her wool, find even the ivory needle hard to pull. The massive weight of Uncle's wedding band sits heavily upon Aunt Jenifer's hand. When Aunt is dead, her terrified hands will lie still ringed with ordeals she was mastered by. The tigers in the panel that she made will go on prancing, proud and unafraid. Well, before considering stanza 1, I'd like to remind you of the first picture that I flashed. The picture of a tiger. Well, that is the first symbol that Adrian Rich uses in her poem, in stanza 1. She straight away, through the speaker, gets us into understanding who Aunt Jenifer's tigers are. Well, she doesn't tell us what the tigers are, and she doesn't tell us how they become Aunt Jenifer's tigers. We have no idea. We just know that they are tigers that prance across a screen. Well, the screen could represent anything, we're not sure. But then her tigers were prancing, very human-like. So there's a poetic device personification. Then she goes on to talk about how they are bright topaz, referring to the color, the unique color of the tiger, against a world of green, a contrast for you, which shows that they can never be invisible. You can always spot a tiger even in the thickest of a forest because you can see the topaz. Well, are they afraid? No. How do we know that? They move ahead and they're not afraid of the men standing underneath the trees. So they are unafraid. And finally, in the last line of the first stanza, she talks about how they move in sleek, chivalric certainty. Beautiful choice of words those are, don't you think? Well, sleek referring to elegant, chivalric referring to honor, honor-bound, referring to everything that knighthood represents. Well, they move in chivalric certainty. They are not scared. They are not going to hold back. They are going to press on. They're going to move forward because they know for certain where they want to go. That is the first symbol that is presented in the first stanza of the poem Aunt Jenifer's Tigers. Well, we now have to move on to the second stanza. And this is the picture that I showed you next. That is the picture of a wedding band. Well, the next stanza, we come to know a lot more about Aunt Jenifer. What is she doing? She's doing something with her wool. She's sewing. Well, is she very confident about sewing? No. How do we know that? The fluttering fingers. How do we contrast it with the previous symbol? Chivalric certainty as opposed to fluttering fingers. There's no direction. She's not certain. She's just going where the wind takes her, just like a butterfly flutters in the wind. Well, where does the symbol then come in? It comes in the third line of the stanza where she says the massive weight of uncle's wedding band. Usually, a wedding band would represent love, togetherness, a relationship, a beginning of a forever, so many nice things that we would associate with a wedding and marriage later. But here, the speaker tells us it's massive, it's heavy, and it's not letting her move on, not even practice an art that by now she would have been very skilled at. It's weighing her down. It's weighing her down to the point of her not even being able to pull the ivory needle out of her panel. Well, is that literal? It's metaphorical, of course. The weight of her marriage has restricted everything that she originally was. There's a loss of an identity, there's a loss of personal freedom, there's a loss of personal space as well. And what does she mean by saying uncle's wedding band? Well, there's no aunt there, there's just uncle. So that very clearly tells you that Aunt Jenifer had no place in the marriage. It wasn't companionship. She was separated, there was spatial distance, there was physical distance probably, we do not know, and there was emotional distance as well because it's massive, it's heavy, and she's weighed down. She's not happy, she's not uplifted, she's not expressive. Well, that's the second symbol. Can you see how beautifully Adrian Rich takes a traditional symbol of love and turns it around? Moving on to the third stanza and the third picture. The picture of an old lady sewing. Well, it is in the third stanza that we actually know that Aunt Jenifer is sewing these tigers. It says when aunt is dead. It's no more Aunt Jenifer, it's just aunt there. It's a restating of the loss of identity concept and her terrified hands. Why terrified hands? Because she's probably afraid. She has a very domineering husband and she's not very happy in the marriage. She has a bad marriage. And even in death, she believes that those ordeals are going to haunt her forever. So ringed with ordeals here, metaphorically stating that even in death, she will still be in the shackles of her bad marriage. Well, she moves on and she says, the tigers in the panel that she made will go on prancing proud and unafraid. Well, she talks about how she has immortalized what she really thinks, who she really was, through her creativity, through her art, through her embroidery that she was so good at. Finally, nobody can take that away from her. Years down the line, Aunt Jenifer might die, she might be even forgotten, but the panel that she embroidered will always be remembered, and the tigers that she embroidered will always be proud, will always be unafraid, will always prance in chivalric certainty. That is who Aunt Jenifer was in reality. And Rich portrays it so beautifully in this poem through terse stanzas, and she talks about how, although patriarchy oppressed, suppressed physically, they could never at any point oppress or suppress the thoughts of a woman. And she immortalized her thoughts through her art. So 3 symbols: 1, the tiger; 2, the wedding band; and 3, a lady doing needlework.